All right, I'd like to call to order the July meeting of the Town of East Troy Planning Commission. I'd like the record to show that all commissioners are present with two alternates, and thank you alternates for making yourselves available. How we work is on a split meeting format. This is our informational meeting where we will have the presenter come up, tell us what they're looking for. We will ask some questions as a planning commission to the presenter, to the applicant. At that point, we will have a small discussion amongst commissioners, and then I would open it up to the audience. And I would first like anybody who'd like to speak in favor of the proposal to come up, and then anybody who would like to speak against the proposal could come up and talk, and then if necessary, a short rebuttal from the applicant. I ask that if anybody comes up to talk, if you could just state your name and address for the record, I'd appreciate that. So then what we do is we adjourn for 2 weeks, we come back in 2 weeks, and we make our decision. That being said, that's not by ordinance, so if it is a straightforward decision we think we can make tonight, we will make it tonight. The first item on the agenda is to review and approve the Plan Commission minutes from June 5th. Anybody have any issues with the minutes from the 5th?
I'd make a motion, we approve the minutes as written.
We have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is a rezone and conditional use tabled from our June 5th meeting at N8828 Stringers Bridge Road, PET, parcel number PET 1800006A, West Rod Cottage Industries, Inc. John, you want to let us know what transpired from the last meeting?
You don't want me to go over my whole presentation from last week, just maybe pick it up where we left off.
I think we just,
Pick it up.
if we could maybe gloss over that because we have two alternates here, just kind of give us cliff notes of,
Okay.
of the whole deal and anything new and pertinent.
All right, so, no, that's okay, I'll just make it work here, I'll just take a little more time. All right, so thank you for having me on the planning commission here tonight. What happened last week, or the last time we met, was I came up and I explained all the other business-owned properties on the lake and how they have access to their piers, and they can pull any size boat up and go patronize the business. And that the property where we're talking about here is at a competitive disadvantage because if your boat doesn't fit through the culvert, you can't get to the place. What I think I'm just going to do is I'm going to go into what I have prepared here. And if there's any questions that the commissioners don't know after they watch the tape, and I'll be happy to refresh them or fill them in. So have all the commissioners received all the information that was turned in since the last meeting?
I believe so.
Okay, I want to give you something here that you guys don't have because I didn't see it in the packets. I turned the packets information in probably 2+ weeks ago, and I contacted Jen 2 days ago, and the stuff wasn't on there, and then she put some stuff on there, but it still never made it all on there. So, Joel, you requested a wetland delineation map with the current date on it. And there's one from June of this year. And then here's another one that shows down here. It's June of this year as well. So you don't have that. I just want to leave it with you. You can have it.
I have it, but nothing changed on this map other than Warren stamped it.
No, Warren went out. He looked at whatever was happening in the field. He sent the crew out there, and then he wrote a report, and then they modified this right here. So I'm going to get to that. Do you want me to leave this with you, or should I take it back?
It's all yours.
Okay. All right, so I have a question for the board. Did my proposal ask or have anything, any land disturbance activity on it near the water, anywhere on the property.
Well, why don't you tell us what you're providing rather than us?
Well, no, I want to know if you saw that somewhere in my proposal, because I followed up with my documentation that I have here from the DNR that you have not seen yet. So I'm just asking specifically, in the presentation what I presented to you before, did I make mention anywhere, anytime of any land disturbing activities near the shore?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, at the last meeting, Commissioner Smith asked if I could provide a study that I was quoting off at the last meeting. Did you receive that?
I believe so.
Okay, thank you. The new wetland delineation map, you've seen it, so that's cleared up. I have a new email here. And I'd like to provide a copy for each one of the commissioners. And Jen.
Is it from Sewer Pack?
It's from the DNR. And, yep. I've had several conversations with both Sewer Pack, Chris George, and with Allison from the DNR. And Chris explained to me that they are advisory to Sewer Pack. So if the DNR says this is good, we're gonna move forward with this, they're the ones that are the lead pony in the race. So Sewer Pack is advisory to the DNR. So if you look at the email I just handed out to you, I highlighted the very short response that I got from her. I left her a voicemail, she wasn't available, I left her a voicemail. She contacted me back. It says, to clarify, a new wetland delineation would be needed if there was going to be any kind of soil disturbance activities near the shore. And you stated I wasn't applying for any of that, which is true, which I'm not. So this right here should suffice, because Ben reached out and contacted Sewer Pack through an email and was inquiring about how long a wetland delineation lasts. And I told at my last presentation that they last for 5 years, and that's why I went through the legwork of contacting Sewer Pack and contacting Allison from the DNR. So I hope we can put to bed the fact that the DNR is allowing me to use my older wetland delineation map for what we're specifically doing here at this time. All right, ask yourself, is this proposal consistent with other commercial properties on Lake Beulah? Well, the Lindy's property has about 65 parking stalls, and I'm asking for 8, so I'm a very modest request. The Double D's property, I believe, has 47 parking stalls when they were in business, and I'm asking for 8.
But there's apples to oranges. Those are much different size parcels as well.
I understand, but what I'm asking here is, I'm just trying to demonstrate that all these other businesses have ample parking for what they're doing, and I'm trying to generate 8 parking spots on my own property so that my business can be competitive with the other businesses on the lake. I'm at a competitive disadvantage.
But you knew where Fred's Tap was when you bought it. So I don't really
Correct.
care about your
Correct. But
competitive disadvantage with the culvert.
What I'm trying to do is I'm trying not to have people parking in my neighbor's driveways pissing them off, because I don't want them down at the town hall complaining, hey, he's got cars over here, he's got cars over there. I have space on my own property. I'm coming to this board asking for permission to use my own property, more or less.
Sure.
Okay, and I think that's the way it's supposed to work, right? I mean, I come, I
Sure,
apply.
but yes,
Yeah,
you're
guys
asking for
look
more
at-
than that, though. But
Well,
continue with. I don't want to have this be a pissing match. Make your presentation, and we'll ask questions. How about that?
Joel, I'm not trying to make it a pissing match. You asked me to provide things last time. I brought them in for you. I'm
Please
cooperating
continue.
with what you want. Okay, are there any questions on the stuff that I covered so far?
I think we're good.
Okay. So, do you have any letters? I did an open records request earlier in the week, and I asked for any letters for or against this, and I haven't gotten a response back. I understand you have 10 days to respond to that, and that's fine. So, I have 3 letters that I've gotten, people that emailed them to me. Can I read those into the record?
Can we just surmise that they're for or against, or do we need to go through the whole thing?
Well,
If you feel you want to, again, this.
yeah, I feel I should, because they
presentation.
took the time to write these detailed letters, and I hate to have their effort in vain, because I think it's important that they get their voice heard because they're not here tonight.
Fire away.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to read them as they're written. Okay. July 9th, 2024, to the Town of East Troy Planning Commission Board, CC Jen Olson Clerk. Subject, West Rock Cottage Industries LLC rezone and conditional use amendment application. I attended the first Planning Commission meeting on 6/5/2024, where Mr. Stoss, the owner of Cottage Industries, first submitted his application for a rezone and conditional use amendment for his existing properties. There were two other applicants who preceded John, and the tone of the meeting was very positive, cooperative, and supportive while these applicants presented their case. Almost immediately, I noticed a dismissive and negative change in the tone of the meeting when Mr. Stoss was setting up to give his presentation, which I thought was extremely thorough and very informative and attempted to anticipate many, many questions. Mr. Stoss appeared very cooperative and was willing to provide an updated delineation drawing and a courtesy copy of an environmental study upon requested by the board. Mr. Stoss provided email exchanges with Walker County and the DNR, which seemed to be in support of his relatively iniquitous request. My understanding of his request amount to a reclassification of a current zoning and a conditional use permit of his existing properties. There doesn't seem to be any physical alterations, either lots or mooring spaces. So this is mainly a paperwork activity from my point of view. It appears to me his requests are focused on making it easier for his patrons to conduct business with his Beulah Bait and Boat LLC business, which he legally operates today. I spoke in favor of the Double D's container bar proposal at the General Town Board meeting last year after I noticed the clear negative pile-on by the public which took place at the Planning Commission meeting. Even though the Planning Commission ultimately approved its application and sent it to the Town Board for their approval, however, the Town Board pushed it back to the Planning Commission based upon a sketchy argument that the Planning Commission did not show sufficient public comment. It seems to me that the applicant lost interest and pulled his application after 2 months of back and forth. I don't live on the lake, Beulah, so my only interest is to promote good community-oriented businesses in the town of East Troy. I have a personal engagement which just came up that will keep us from attending the 7/10/2024 Planning Commission meeting. Since I wasn't able to offer comments for the container bar request, I do not want to make the same mistake again. Therefore, I'm writing to the Planning Commission to support of Mr. Stoss's request, and I have grown to know John after seeing him at every town board meeting over the past 2 years, and he has presented himself as a reasonable, well-prepared individual. I'm not sure that transpired in the past, which may have caused adversarial opinion of John, but I haven't seen any justification for it since 2022. When I started attending the meetings, I would like the board to give him the same fair and partial consideration that all other applicants receive. My investigation of Beulah Bait and Boat LLC reveals that the customers are very satisfied with their experience and comment specifically about how accommodating John is with his customers. His business is good PR for the lake, promotes a good image for the town of East Troy, already legally exists, and I see no reason why he shouldn't be granted these paperwork requests. Thank you for the work you do for the town and for your consideration of my request. Signed, Joe Jones, town resident, N93, 33 East Miramar Drive. All right, I have another one here. This one is from Mary Jo Jones, and Mary Jo and I are unable to attend tomorrow's Planning Commission meeting, so we decided to provide our input by either letter, which is attached. We pulled John's email off the application in the packet and copied him since we are submitting these the day before the meeting. Please forward this attachment letters to the 7 board members so they have it well before the meeting, tomorrow night's meeting. We request that some read them during the public comments so it becomes part of the record. All right, commissioners, I support local businesses. From my perspective, Mr. Stoss, owner, is simply requesting a lot rezone for commercial parking and a conditional use amendment for commercial mooring spaces to improve his boat rental business and to better accommodate his customers. His business has a 4.9 out of 5 Google star rating. Here are a few Google reviews. John's amazing. He accommodated a request to rent the boat on short notice, provided the boat rules to us, and educated me on operating mechanics. He provided a map of the lake for the best fishing areas, sandbars, and danger zones. Outstanding day of fishing on the lake, thanks to John. He was patient, kind, helpful, and knowledgeable. This was my first time boating on Lake Buell. I rented a pontoon boat for a full day. The staff was friendly, the pontoon was great, and Lake Buell turned out to be the perfect place to spend a day. I'm asking the Planning Commission to please consider cooperation and support to this local business owner who grew up in the town, presents our beautiful lake, and provides a great boat rental service with his abundant knowledge of the lake and area. Thank you for your consideration, Mary Jo Jones, N93 33 East Miramar Drive. Okay, I think I have one more here. I think it's in my bag over there, excuse me. Okay, this one is from John Finney, N9299 East Shore Road, East Troy, Wisconsin, 53120. To the Town of East Troy Planning Commission, CC Jen Olson, re John Stoss Commercial Use Parking and Mooring. Dear Planning Commission members, please consider this letter of support when deciding the above two requests by applicant John Stoss. First, I personally have known John for over 20 years. To my knowledge, he has been on and around the Lake Beulah for most of 50 years. John has operated his boat rental business for over 20 years in a highly respectful manner without any issues or complaints from customers or local police, which is an impressive track record. For as long as I've known him, John has been a very well active member of the community, including employment to keep the peace at the former Lindy's Pub for many years, as well as being an active participant in virtually every town board meeting and Lake Association meeting for as long as I can remember. In short, John is a veteran business owner in the Lake Beulah community and has a long, flawless record for providing reasonable boat rentals to the public to enjoy the lake. Further, the location of Fred's Tap and his boat rental operation is at a competitive disadvantage because of the low culvert, which prohibits most boats access, thus requiring customers mooring on the east side of the culvert. Besides being fair, reasonable, and objective in making your decision to approve or deny his two requests, I'd also hope you'd be consistent. By that I mean, how do John's two requests, formally or commercial parking, commercial boat mooring, differ from the current practices around the lake in various 8 wetland zones as previously outlined by John? For one, I currently see nothing different or unusual or harmful between what John is requesting and what has been previously approved and or is in current practice in at least a dozen current former lakeside establishments. In reaching your decision, I trust you will consider exactly how John's applications are similar or consistent with those other approved operations that include nearby parking and boat mooring. As a side note, it's my opinion that Stringers Bridge Road should have a reduced speed limit to 15 miles an hour between Beulah Heights Road and West Bay Road because of the hills and being a busy area, exactly as already has been done on East Shore Road and Town Line Road at Booth Lake. Thank you for your consideration of this letter of support, John Finney. Okay, I would like to share with the board, there is a lot of scuttle and talk about this hill that work was done there without a permit. So what I'd like to do here is I would like to show you guys, I'm gonna walk down the line here. This is my actual permit that I got from the county to do that work there. These are my correspondence that I contacted Faye Emerson before I touched a pebble of sand over there. I was in corresponding with Faye Emerson. She used to be our land disturbance lady for Walworth County. And here is a highlighted sentence from RSB Engineering, which used to be the town's engineering firm. It says Faye Emerson of the Walworth County Land Disturbance Department issued a land disturbance permit to allow removal of a small amount of material from this site. So it's documented by the engineer that used to work for the town, and it's documented by my actual permit here. And if you want to question it or have any questions about it, you can do an open records request and you can get the information from Walworth County. Here's a letter from RSV. Here's the actual permit itself. Here's my correspondence, facsimiles with Faye Emerson.
Is that work still going on?
No, that work has been done for a long time, for 15 years. Here's the actual finished product here, done according to the plan.
What's the relevance to this then?
The relevance is, I'm hearing things that people are saying that the work that was done over there was done without a permit. And I don't think it's fair to me that they're saying that because I have documentation that stipulates different. So that's why I just wanted to bring it up.
Got it.
Not a big deal, but I just want to throw it out there so that you guys are aware of the past, what happened there.
All right.
Now, in wrapping up, I would just like to go over with this, with the board and the public here. So, hillside permit hoax, we can put that to bed. There's a check mark there, it's checked off, I showed you the permit, everyone should know that the hill had a permit when the work was being done, and it was done according to the permit, okay? So we can check that off our list. No new wetland delineation needed, DNR letter from 7/3/24 that I provided to you guys all have it on your desk there. New wetland map has been dated as of 6/17/24. Joel asked for that, I provided for it. Environmental study was requested by Ben Smith, and I provided that to Jen, and it was disseminated to you guys. So I think I provided everything you asked for, and I didn't come down here arguing, I just present my case, that's it.
Great. Anything else?
No, that's it, thank you.
All right. Questions then of the applicant amongst commissioners?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So, John, on your application, you list the property as C4. So you're asking to go from a highly sensitive C4 to a C2, which would give you, I guess, marina status which is what you're after.
Okay, all right, let me answer that.
But my first question is,
Okay,
on your application, you list the property as a C4 property.
because that's what it's currently zoned to, yes.
Okay. Okay.
So you want me to rebut to your answer?
No, I just wanted clarification that it's C4.
Okay, but having the wetland delineation done twice, and it's been proven that just a few feet along the edge of the shore, like a lot of lake lots are, the rest of it's upland district. So we're trying to get it out of the improper zoning into the correct zone. Anybody else have a question?
Well, I don't know if Jess was done. Were you done?
Well, I have a question for us later.
I have a related question, just to piggyback on that.
Sure.
So there's a lot of information there and a lot of background history on the property. Can you briefly summarize your request? It's a rezone from C4 to C2
And a conditional use for a permitted use in the C2 zoning. Okay,
Well, conditional use for a marina.
correct.
Okay.
Which is a permitted use in a C2.
It's a conditional use.
Okay, yeah, correct.
okay.
One other question.
Sure.
So on the shoreline, to accommodate the 8 moorings plus 2 private, did you use the chord method to establish the shoreline distance?
No, the shoreline distance was established by Attorney Mills, the town's attorney, I don't know, 12, 15 years ago. Whatever the date of that letter is, if you look in the packet that was posted last time, he figured that out for me, and he said I can have 10 mooring spaces. So here's what we're really talking about. I can put 10 of my own boats there. Are my boats more detrimental to the lake than somebody else's boats? My boats generally have a 25 horsepower motor, 4-stroke, very small. I don't have big high horsepower motors. I'm not rotting around, and I'm very adamant about telling people how to traverse through sensitive area number 7. Sensitive area number 7 has lily pads on both sides of a small 25-foot wide channel that leads you out to the lake. And when I tell the people, here's how I explain it to them. I said, these are waterproof engines on the back of this boat. I said, look back there, it's peeing out the overflow tube back there. If you drive this boat in the lily pads, you're gonna fill my impeller up with silt and sand, and you're gonna plug up my motor and overheat it. So I tell everybody, I emphasize, stay out of the lily pads anywhere on the lake, because the lily pads will fry your motor. And that's how I've been able to keep people out of lily pads and haven't had any motors fry in 21 years.
One other question.
Sure.
So when you mentioned the attorney, the town attorney, with this 8 plus 2 for 10, what is your shoreline footage, in your opinion?
250, right around 250 feet.
Is that with the chord method? Or
I
is
don't know
that-
what method Attorney Mills used. That would be a question for Attorney Mills.
Okay, that to me is a huge question. Because if you use the chord
Well,
method.
I've been having 10 boats there forever, and I haven't seen any detrimental impact environmentally over there. I can show you pictures on my phone right now where I have 23 turtles and 2 geese sitting on my shore sunning themselves. So I don't think I'm doing anything detrimental over there that's gonna cause people to lose sleep at night. I probably have more wildlife over there than the San Diego Zoo has.
So you have 10 boats there now?
I think I have 7 there, 6 or 7 right now, but I bring them in and out. I have a lot of boats personally myself, and I have my business boats.
So then why do you need to have a marina? You're already basically doing what you want right now. anyway.
Because you can't pull up there legally and park there and walk across the street and go to the bar and buy something or have a
But you
sandwich.
can have 10 boats and leave,
I can
rent them
have-
out.
I can have 10 boats that when they're sitting there, they're my personal boats. I can hop on any one of those boats and go out on the lake and enjoy myself. Okay. I can bring some of those boats through the culvert. I can load them on the west side of the road and I can take them out onto the lake. Pain in the ass, but I can do it.
Okay.
I'm just trying to clean this up so that the management district doesn't have to waste any more of their time and money. The county doesn't have to be bothered by a simple half-acre parcel. The county has spent numerous amounts of hours and time and energy and money on this property. And it's because certain fractions of the people on the lake, mainly the Lakeview Management District, they are infatuated with this property for some reason. They just can't get enough of it, I guess. It's like catnip to them.
I have a follow-up to
Yeah,
that
please.
line of question. So I'd like to understand better understand the nature of the conditional use that you propose,
Okay.
that you're looking for with the marina conditional use, because the marina is very broad, but you've described.
I
you
described it as in the book.
I'm not done. So you described at length last time, and then you provided some context here as to how you intend to use it. So I have some specific questions.
Sure.
So with the commercial use, would you expect, boats to be, that aren't yours, that would conceivably be parked there to then allow someone to do business at Fred's Tat? Would they be parked overnight? What would be the hours of operation for that, like for
If you look in the
parking
book,
a boat there?
it says the marina has hours of operation 24 hours a day. You can't tell somebody they can't go catch walleyes at 11 o'clock at night. That's impossible.
So
They don't restrict you on the time you do it. You just have to be respectful. You can't be blasting the radio. You can't be doing foolish stuff. And if I found out somebody was doing that, I'd throw them out.
So you're asking for a 24-hour.
That's what's in the book. I didn't ask for that.
What are you asking for?
I'm asking for what's in the book.
Which is 24 hours.
That's what the book says.
So it's-
On my application, I put in yachting clubs and marinas. So whatever they allow a yachting club and marina to do, that's what I'm asking for. And that's all described in the Walworth County book and the definitions in the back of the book.
Yeah, I understand those definitions.
Okay,
So you're asking for a 24-hour use, commercial use of those slips and mooring locations?
just like I have a 24-hour use right now on the west side of the road, because I have people that go out and fish at night, and they like to fish at 2 or 3 in the morning when the lake is perfectly calm, there's nobody out there. I don't tell people when to fish.
He just wanted to know what your intention was.
Yeah,
You don't
my
need to get
intention-
into the whole thing.
Right,
Just
my intention is
24
to do
hours.
the same thing as I do on the west side of the road, peacefully and quietly, so it doesn't disturb the neighbors.
Okay, and then how long would you expect, a customer's boat to be parked at one of these locations?
How many beers are they gonna have? I don't know. I mean, if you're gonna rent somebody a slip, which is what a marina does, then you would expect to see their boat there for a season. They might take their boat off and take it up north and do the Chain of Lakes or something up there. But if somebody's gonna moor their boat with you, they generally moor for the season.
But I think he's talking about the transient person that comes over
Oh,
for
no.
a drink or two.
Yeah, they would be for an hour or two, and then they get back on their boat and go. We're not gonna be like having a free for all over the road. We can just park and hang out.
But you would expect to use those slips as seasonal rentals and transient?
A combination of both.
It's 8 and 2, right?
Well, it's 8 and 2, 8 commercial use and 2 personal use. I have like 20 boats of my own personal boats that I don't rent out. I have
So
20 of them.
the 8 commercial use could be a mix of
Yeah, it
transient.
could be 3 spots to pull up off the lake and come buy beer, watch a little TV and leave and go. And it could be, 4 or 5 spots of mooring, or it could be no mooring and just come and go. It has to see how it ebbs and flows. I can't really give that answer right now because I don't know where I'm at with that.
Okay, and then how would you, if you're mooring or offering seasonal rentals, how would those boats get to those mooring or slip locations? Meaning, how would they?
Well, they would launch them at the
how-
public launch and then drive them over there and tie them up there.
So you don't intend to install any like boat
No,
lifts?
no. I don't really like boat lifts because they're a pain in the ass, because you take them out, you put them in, they leave holes in the four corners where they're mounted. I do have a few boat slips across the street over there, but I'm not really crazy about shore stations, because they're a pain in the butt to pull in and out.
Do you intend to operate essentially a mobile boat lift via telehandler?
I'm not going to be putting people's boats in and out off that property. I put my own stuff out, and I'll give you an example. Let me just set this down here, it's getting heavy. I'll give you an example. July 4th, I had a boat go out, and it came back in, and it was limping and had a warning horn, okay? So I investigated it, and I found out that the water was not peeing out the back. And there was no obstructions, there was no CB done, it was blocked up. So I took the boat out of service. I took my telehandler that I own, because I'm a one-man band down there. I get a little help, but not much. And I pulled the boat out of the water on the shore. I pulled the lower unit off of it. I put a new impeller in it, and I got it back in service within 12 hours. So I got to do everything myself. One-man show. So I use my telehandler to whichever way I can mechanically make it help me. Is it going to happen every day? Of course not, no. That was a freak breakdown in the middle of use, because the boat had to go out the next day. So I was forced to do that like that. Normally I would pull the boat out at the launch and fix it that way.
That's all I had.
Anybody else?
Okay.
I have one more, just a curiosity question. So you have the pier on the south side. What is the purpose of that pier?
That pier is not this property. The property you're talking about is a separate tax key number from the property we're talking about here.
Okay.
You want to know, it's my pier. I put my personal boats there. I have a double-decker pontoon, but I put on it occasionally. I have a 20-foot Boston whaler I put on it occasionally. So I generally put my stuff over there.
So you have 8 plus the 2 on the north side, and then you have additional private boating mooring on the single pier on the other side.
Which is a separate tax.
Separate.
That's another taxi separate.
Right, okay,
Yeah,
got it. So I just want to clarify.
sure.
Yes, sir.
John, so
Sure.
I'm just trying to understand this better. So it looks like your parcel does it have 2 different zoning designations right now? Some of it's C4 and some of it's B3, or are we just talking about the?
No, we're only talking about the property on the east side of the road. The
Right.
property on the west side of the road is all B3. The property that we're talking about tonight is the property that's on the east side of the road, which is labeled as North 8828 Stearns Bridge Road.
Okay, and you want to take the entire parcel, not a portion of it, but the entire parcel?
Well, the entire parcel, minus a few feet along the edge of the shore, if you look at the wetland delineation map, is an upland zoning district. And I provided, I think, 6 or 7 examples at the first presentation that showed that having a substandard lot can be in C2, as long as the lot was created before 1971, which my lot was.
And the area looks like it's to the east of you
Is all C2.
is all C2.
Correct, yep.
That's PLBW quadruple 05.
Yep, that's all C2. So we're not going to do spot zoning. We're going to do something that's consistent with the neighboring property.
And your position is the reason it's currently designated C4 is because of the wetland along the.
No, do you want me to tell you the truth why it's C4? In 1971, when the state of Wisconsin mandated all 72 counties had to come up with some shoreline zoning for all the lakes that were in all 72 counties, Walworth County put people up in airplanes and helicopters and did flyovers. They said, okay, that property is B3, that property is R1, that property is C4. What they did is they didn't do a very scientific way of identifying these properties and putting them on the record. So this property was one of the ones that fell through the crack, never got properly zoned, marked. And I got that, if you're wondering where I got the information from, because I was only 3 years old in 71. Warren Hansen, who's from Ferris Hansen's, who's about 4 or 5 blocks west of the courthouse in Elkhorn, he was actually in business back then, and I got that information out of Warren's mouth.
Anything else? All right. Any other questions from the applicant, from the commissioners? All right.
Sit down.
Thanks. Quick discussion amongst the commissioners. Obviously, there's a lot going on here. Obviously, we have to get all the information. I don't see us making the decision tonight. Again, unless anybody else here vehemently disagrees, I'd like to obviously get all the information from all the people that took the time out of their day to come talk to us. gather it together, regurgitate, but any discussion now before I open it up to the audience amongst commissioners?
I do.
Absolutely.
I still have a concern about the method for the shoreline measurement. I would like to know, was the chord method used?
Okay.
Because if you eyeball that property, which I did today, being an alternate, I don't see how you get 250 feet, which would impact the number of boats allowed for mooring. So I think that's a critical question. The chord method is the method of choice.
Okay.
And I think that needs to be looked at.
I can reach out to Jim Mills on that.
And my second question is if this property is C4, I guess my concern would be, why would we be taking what would be considered and deemed a highly sensitive area backward to a C2?
Correct.
Which is a huge issue to me. And I looked up C2 and there are restrictions. However, it calls out for 5 acres plus 300 feet
Sure.
of width.
So as far as I'm concerned, looking at the map, with the wetland delineation, the C4, the true C4 that the DNR and sewer pack says is a small perimeter along the lake. Again, just my opinion. I think it is miszoned. It's not. So I have the same opinion as you. The wetland is gospel. We don't change C4 to anything. This isn't, in my opinion, the upland portion of this is upland, not wetland. But
there is drainage from the upland and from the hill, and the wetland actually protects.
correct. So we wouldn't change what the wetland delineation called out as wetland around the lake. If you got the map,
I do.
okay. So again, I have the same exact concern as you, just doing a little bit more research.
Okay. Well, we're on
Again,
the
just
same-
opinion.
We're on the same page.
Yeah, but so the C4 that is delineated as truly C4 per sewer pack, we have no intention of changing.
Okay, I'm on board.
But there is a good portion of this that is truly upland and not wetland,
Okay,
and most of it.
and I have another question, again, because I'm an
Certainly.
alternate, so I did some research. So the other question that I have, and I might be misreading this, so I'm
Go.
looking for guidance here. So the parking and the marina side of it, I went online to the town of East Troy, and it's 16.10.060, and it states that marinas shall require a permit from the town of East Troy. I don't know if a permit was applied for. It also states that the Lake Beulah Management District should get a permit as well. I called, they did not.
Well, he doesn't have a marina yet. He's looking for conditional use for the marina. So in my take on that, if we were to give him a conditional use to have a marina, then he would have to go get all his permits
Okay.
to create his marina.
All right, I'm just seeing
Certainly, no,
these as steps.
fantastic. Yep. What else you got?
One other one.
Go.
Are there septic and well requirements since this theoretically could be a marina?
I don't know the answer. I mean, the septic and well requirements of any other house or building on the lake
I'm just
would
curious,
apply.
because it's a business, you would think people would need
Right.
water and,
In this proposal, he's not requesting a building. I mean, it's a half-acre lot. It's a tiny lot. He's requesting
Okay.
parking. If there were a building or an outhouse, it would definitely have to be permitted and get Walworth. Walworth County is septic DNR as well. So
okay, and I have one last question.
go.
Sorry. So my last question is, and I could be wrong, but is parking and marina permitting something that this commission addresses? I would think we don't vote.
Use can have whatever conditions we put on it. In general, if there are parking requirements per the ordinance, he'd have to apply with that. If there aren't, and we said, hey, we'll approve this conditional use, but based on 5 spots, 8 spots, 2 spots. That's our prerogative to put those conditions on our conditional use approval.
Okay.
Any other discussion amongst commissioners? All right, at this time, I'd open up to the audience. Would anybody in the audience like to speak in favor of the proposal? If you could come up to the mic and just give us name and address, please.
Excuse me, I'm gonna trip on you. My name is Tim Runyon. I live at N9290 East Shore Road. I am up here more so I don't have all the facts and all the stuff that's been presented to you guys the way that it's been presented to you guys. Simply up here as a character witness to the usage of the lake, Mr. Stas. I've known John for about 12 years. I've been in this area with my family for over 40 years. We've enjoyed all the lakes in this area. And since I've known John, we go out on that water. If there's a foreign object, a soda can, a bag of chips, anything floating, old beer can, you name it. He's the first one to grab out his net and take it out of the water and protect that wetland, protect that whole entire lake. He does it on a regular basis, not because he's asked, not because he's trying to show off to somebody. I don't know anybody in this room other than John. And just sitting here listening to the presentation, and as I sat here and I watched, I could feel a biased content going on of feeling and watching people's faces and expressions. And I know John's been in this area for quite some time. And saying that, we got to always put on the other person's shoe. I know you guys have the power to make these decisions. He does not have the power to make these decisions. You have to put one of his shoes on. He has to put on one of your guys' shoes. Got to come together, come to an agreement, and allow him to be able to make money, revenue, and not only that, continue to take care of the lake the way he has, and you know he'll continue to without being asked, and be able to make a living for himself, and give us a fun place to go to, because we've lost several places. Obviously, Lindy's is gone, Double D's is gone. We have Docksides. I'm not an extremely wealthy person. I don't have the ability to go to Docksides and have a $7 beer and a $30 cheeseburger. Every once in a while I can, but I can't take my family there and enjoy that. When Double D's was down the road, $10 cheeseburger, $2 beer, I can afford that. By putting somebody else on the lake and allowing that to happen again and have a competitive nature so that everything's fair across the board, I think would be extremely helpful for all the patrons who live in the town. That's all I really have to say.
Thanks. Would anybody else like to speak in favor of the proposal?
Yeah, I don't think you got my expression back here, sorry.
If you could come to the mic, please,
Sure.
and just state your name and address, I'd appreciate it.
I'm just a little bit, sorry. My name is Scott Cornell at 2415 Newville Avenue, just on the block. And I've been out there about 40 years too, and I've been in a lot of meetings with this, and I just find a lot of false information going on, and I still can't figure out what's going on right here. If he owns 10 boats, and he's gonna have 10 parking spots, excuse me, are those his boats that he's renting out, or are they gonna have 10 more boats there?
He's gonna have 10 spots
10 spots
for 10 boats.
and 10 parking.
I believe it was.
Again, a false information. I don't know John, other than a little bit we talked. I don't believe he owns 10 boats. He may own them because what he has to do with the
So
situation.
he's asking for a conditional use that would allow him to have 8 commercial boats
Okay,
and 2 of his own personal boats. That's what he's asking us for.
one more question if I don't mind.
Certainly.
I also had to deal with Faye Anderson with some land management problems. I didn't have a permit down there when I did some work and I had to comply. And I had a $400 after the fact fine. And I honestly, John, I don't think you had a permit when you put those rocks back in there on that side. And if you had an after the fact fine,
If you could just address the board, because I
I'm
just don't
sorry.
want this
I
to,
apologize, there's something new for me.
I just don't want it to degrade into an argument and.
Oh, no, I was just curious that, I had.
Just talk with us,
And I
if you
didn't,
would,
I had
please.
to get all the permits to comply, and I did. I was
Understood.
able to build the boathouse and get some things done. I still got some other things to do down there. And I don't have a problem with the people down there. They're really nice people. I know a lot of them, and it seems like it's getting crowded and crowded on the lake, no matter how long you've been out here, whether they took Double D's down because they had too many parking spots or what's going over there at the dockside, I can't tell you. But I am concerned because it is down my block, and it is crowded down there to get to that little bridge.
All right.
And that's basically my concern.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Would anybody else like to speak in favor of the proposal? I guess it doesn't have to be for or against necessarily, but
I don't have much to say. I just, Jeff Workard, at 9286 East Shore Road. I'm actually neighbors with Tim. I back up everything Tim says. John's a great guy. I've lived here for about 12 years now. So, yeah, the guy will give you the shirt off his back, and definitely a good, knowledgeable about the lake and everything. And I just think, it's with everything that we lost here in the lake. When I moved in here, we had Double D's and Lindy's, and I think it was something else before Dockside, but it's always been a good time here, and I like it. I just think we should do something with this place over there. It's kind of run down and everything. It'd be nice to see some businesses, maybe some bait. I know we lost Healy's and everything, so it'd be nice to have some bait and go fishing. And I know a couple of years ago, my buddy came up from Illinois, a friend I worked with, and he rented a boat from him and had a great time, brought his kid out here. And, I know my boat has broke down before, and he's always the first one to call and comes out, helps me out. So that's all I got to say.
so the only thing I'll just kind of, I don't want to say rebut, but there's no reason why Fred's Tap couldn't open up tomorrow.
Oh,
It has
okay.
nothing to do with this. So if he wanted to open up Fred's Tap, fix it up,
Yeah.
it's kind of
I was
dilapidated.
told he was having trouble with the parking though, and that was the one thing that was holding him back.
So what he's asking for us is to change the lot across the street. So it doesn't necessarily, yes, they're part and parcel to Fred's Tap, but he can open up Fred's Tap tomorrow if he fixed the place up and got all, his permits and liquor license and all that stuff. So competitive disadvantage and all that, maybe,
Sure.
but again,
Is it 15 miles an hour zone through there right now? Or would
I
that
believe it's 35.
It's 35.
Yeah. That's kind of dangerous right
Sure.
there. Okay.
All right,
Yeah, that's
thanks.
all I got to say.
Appreciate it. Anybody else in the audience like to speak in favor of the proposal? Would anybody like to speak against the proposal? Go ahead.
My name is Robert Miller, N9124 Humphrey Lane. I was town chairman when the situation over on Stringer's Bridge Road started. And I wasn't aware of what was going on over there initially until I got calls from several neighbors on New Deal Avenue. The calls I received was between midnight and 1 o'clock in the morning. And their question was about the construction going on Stringer's Bridge. I got in the car with my wife and drove over there and saw John Stoss with a front end loader, a dump truck, and work lights like you'd see on a highway at night. And a good portion of the hill was dug out. John made reference to a permit hoax. It was not a hoax. I confronted John.
Well, if you could just, I don't want it to devolve into personal attacks. If you could
Well,
just address the board,
That's who
please.
I talked to.
Understood. If you could address the board.
I
appreciate it.
confronted John and said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I have a friend who needs fill. I'm getting fill for a friend." And I said, "You need a permit for that." And he said, "I have a permit." I said, "Well, the permit is supposed to be posted. Where is it?" "I don't have it with me." Okay. I asked him to stop what he was doing. He didn't. I had no authority to stop him from what he was doing. The next day I contacted the county and I spoke to Deborah Ruby, who was at the time the zoning officer that we did our work with, and asked her about a permit for this work. And she says, "There is no permit. I don't have a permit." And if I recall correctly, she hadn't even talked to anybody about a permit there. So I arranged to meet her at the site. While this was going on, everybody doesn't drop what they're doing. John continued to excavate. And pretty much before we could do anything through the system, he had his hole dug out. At that point, we looked at it. I think a stop order was put on it, and we started to have meetings. Two of the meetings were one with the county sheriff, who looked at it and said, bad location because of the hills and the curves. Jim Surgis was our chief of police at the time. Same thing. This is not a good. So then we started to get into what do we do about it? John pleaded with us not to make him restore it because his intention was there was a remnants of an old cottage, if anybody can remember back, that was there for many, many years. He indicated he wanted to build a cottage or a home there and that he needed a parking area for that. It went on, and finally, the county and the town agreed to a deal with John that he had to make certain restorations to stabilize the hill. He put in some boulders. And this is all documented. I don't have the documents with me as to what those requirements would be. If he complied with that, and if he agreed to have 2 personal vehicles, non-business, that he could park at that spot, I will admit that we made a mistake in not identifying what a personal vehicle was because we had dump trucks there, school buses there, all kinds of things. Over the years, he exceeded the number of vehicles he should have had there. He got warnings from the police. He would remove them, and then they would come back, that sort of thing. There was also an outhouse. I don't know if it's there anymore or not, that was supposed to be removed at that time. And I don't know if it did or not. Sanitation was also a question back at that time because we had issues on both sides of the road. When the business was open, they had a place to go. But for, I'm going to say, a minimum of 15 years, because I believe I was still on the town board when he took out the first permits to remodel Fred's, and it got closed, and the toilet facilities went away with it. I believe there was a request to put in porta potties or something for the boat users to do it. I don't believe that ever took place on either side of the road. John was, I think, cited finally and had to remove the old cottage because that was kind of just a falling down hazard. The county then issued an after the fact permit. And as long as those conditions stayed in place, he had that permit. What he's asking to do is void something that he agreed to do. The town, in all honesty, let him off the hook. Probably should have said, restore it. You didn't have a permit. Probably pretty draconian. But the business on one side of the road and the other side of the road were 2 different things. John has had different arguments over the years what the zoning was, and it changed. He said it was R. He said it was C3. He said it was C. It's changed, but this is the first time I think he's officially come in and asked for this request.
Okay.
My dealings in this situation were adversarial because I didn't find him as good as his word. So, any questions?
Thank you.
Okay.
Would anybody else like to speak against the proposal? Go ahead. We'll get everybody in.
So my name is Bob Nauta. My address is 4631 County Road A, Oregon, Wisconsin. I'm a professional hydrogeologist that have been working for the Lake Beulah Management District for over 20 years. And I have to say, I'm not obsessed with this property, but I am concerned about the degradation of natural habitats on Lake Beulah, which has been going on. And in my professional opinion is that the proposed zoning change on the Lake Beulah shoreline and the development that it'll permit will cause irreparable damage to fish and other wildlife habitats, as well as the diverse native plant community. The packet for tonight's meeting had a report from a company called Applied Ecological Services. That document contains references to the 1994 DNR report on Lake Beulah sensitive areas. I passed around a memo. Figure 1 shows 8 sensitive areas on Lake Beulah, and this is in sensitive area 7. The DNR study found that sensitive area 7 contains a healthy native plant community and quality spawning habitats for northern pike, largemouth bass, bluegills, crappies, and native perch. Additionally, Dr. Tim Ellinger, who's an aquatic biologist and formerly from the University of Milwaukee, has studied Lake Beulah for many years, and he's documented the decline of these specific habitats due to development along the shoreline in ecologically sensitive areas. He's referred to that as a death by 1,000 cuts. The development that will result from the proposed zoning change will result in a further decline in these sensitive areas. The development will not only damage sensitive area 7, it will cause a decline to the overall lake in general. Since 2007, the Lake Beulah Management District, working with the USGS, has collected samples at 3 locations on the lake. One of them is the inlet at Stringer's Bridge. The water quality at that location is always fairly bad due to the poor water quality coming in from Pickerel Lake and the churning caused by the shallow waters with boats. As the sensitive area report states, the plant community in sensitive area 7 traps sediments and nutrients coming in from Pickerel Lake, as well as protecting the shoreline from erosion. It also stabilizes the bottom sediments. These functions benefit the entire lake in that they reduce nutrients available in the water to support the growth of nuisance aquatic plants and improve the clarity of water. A marina with its multiple points of access would not only cause removal of many of those vital plants, but the boat traffic that it would disturb and erode the sediments even further. While the report that was in the packet was submitted references the DNR sensitive areas, they left out some critical guidance from the report. Among the guidance is that piers will be considered on a case-by-case basis for limited water access and public education only. I don't think that a marina qualifies for either of those. Finally, figure 2 in my memo shows the DNR mapped wetlands. One thing you want to note is that the wetland complex extends offshore, not just that narrow stretch along the shoreline, but the complex extends offshore. Section 74-179 of the Walworth County Code states, the C4 district is created to maintain safe and healthful conditions to prevent water pollution, to protect fish spawning grounds and wildlife habitat. The primary purpose of this district is to preserve, protect, and enhance the lakes, streams, and wetlands. In this particular location, we have wetlands, we have a stream, and we have a lake. This code was designed to protect this environment. If you change this code, those protections will be gone. Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else? Go ahead. Sorry.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Torsch, and we live at N9174 Humphrey Lane. My husband's grandparents, the Koskas, bought property and built a home on Lake Beulah in 1936. My husband and I are now the owners of this beautiful property, which is also in a designated sensitive area. I hold my PhD in plant sciences, and I am the founding director of the Cheadle Center for Biodiversity and Ecological Restoration at the University of California, Santa Barbara. In my capacity as director, my center was responsible for the protection management, and restoration of over 350 acres of campus land, including sensitive marine habitats. I also serve as a member of the Lake Beulah Protective and Improvement Association. The area that is zoned as C4, that is being proposed to be rezoned as a C2 designation, is of critical importance to the environmental health and preservation of this habitat on Lake Beulah. The proposed site for rezoning is important because the origin of the water flow to this site is Pickerel Creek, which is a diverse, high-quality sedge meadow and fen. Fens take hundreds of thousands of years to develop and cannot be restored easily. Fen species include shrubby cinquefoil, Cam's lobelia, marsh fern, boneset, and swamp thistle. The sedge meadow and fen grade into a high-quality tamarack swamp featuring tamarisk, bog birch, and poison sumac, and then into an emergent marsh featuring cattails and bulrushes. The site is included in the Pickerel Lake Fen in the Sewer Pack and Walworth County Natural Areas plans and designated as a natural area of statewide importance. The proposed site is already out of compliance, and any additional development will damage the area further. The Lake Beulah Protective and Improvement Association has been hosting a series of Lake Beulah collaborative stewardship meetings with residents and stakeholders. In the meeting held on February 27th, 2024, focused on balancing recreational use and ecology for Lake Beulah, the gentleman who is proposing this rezoning effort indicated that he is a steward of the lake and is dedicated to the overall protection of the lake's natural resources. And you have heard this from some of the people that have spoken in favor of this proposal. Thank you, Mr. Stoss, for your efforts to be a good steward of the lake. And at this point, I'd like to respectfully request, based on Mr. Stoss's comments at the February 27th meeting and the members of this group that have spoken, that he withdraw his application to change the property from C4 to C2 so that the lake is protected. And I further encourage him to work with the proper agencies to protect and enhance the property now and for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go next because it feeds right into what Jennifer said. My name is Tom Van Bogart, and I'm the president of the Lake Beulah Protective and Improvement Association. It is being rebranded as Protect Lake Beulah, so you may hear it used both ways in the future, and just wanted you to be aware of that. My comments are strictly to protect Lake Beulah. It has nothing to do with John Stoss. It has nothing to do with anything other than making sure that we're doing the right thing for the lake and for future generations. I want to address the sensitive areas because there was a lot of false information that was stated at the last meeting, and it was referred to again at this meeting. The sensitive areas that are on this lake were not denoted by a flyover on an airplane.
Well,
The DNR
I don't think he said that. He said that the zoning of his property
Okay.
was delineated by a flyover, just to correct the record.
So what I wanted to show is the sensitive areas that have been identified on this lake were done by the Department of Natural Resources in conjunction with the Lake Beulah Protective and Improvement Association at the time, as well as the management district. And those areas were selected because they either provided fisheries habitat, wildlife habitat. They're a site where one of the springs feeds into the lake, and we want to make sure that that is kept pristine. I wanted to show this. So we did a boat tour and educational session through the Lake Beulah Protective and Improvement Association 2 years ago. And this is a map from that. And the areas that you see in orange are the camps and the missions that are around the lake. They're very significant in terms of the amount of shoreline. And then if you look at all of the areas covered in black, those are the sensitive areas around the lake. Mr. Stoss is down here. This area was denoted as a sensitive area basically from what Jennifer just mentioned in terms of that being the inlet of very fresh water that is flowing into the lake. It also is the only outlet for fish spawning for northerns and crappies that like outland bodies of creeks and waters to do their spawning. It's also a very shallow area. So one of my personal concerns is that if he's renting spots for people to put boats, we all know that one of the key areas of focus right now on the protection of the lake is wake boats. Are wake boats causing damage? A wake boat that would be traveling through that shallow water to be stored over in that area would be very, very detrimental to that environmental area. It would be horrendous. Now, I have to believe that he would not allow that or do that, but that is a major concern. Also, he referred to all of the different piers related to sensitive areas at the last meeting. And he specifically mentioned Camp Charles Alice, which I am also a member of. Camp Charles Alice has been very respectful. They're located right here, and there is not a single pier anywhere in the sensitive area that has been designated. It's all around along the Tamarack Marsh area. The piers are all in a very specific area. And then there's also another area that we designate as managed forest, which also takes into account the shoreline of that portion of our property. So we're very strong stewards of the environment, and it's a great benefit to the lake because the tamaracks act as a big sponge or filter to help clean and cleanse the area. And I just wanted to clear up that comment. But you can have, we heard, you can have piers if they're for educational purpose or if it's for a specific use of an individual that lives adjacent to that area. There was a big project that was okayed by the DNR several years ago for someone to put a pier right through the middle of a sensitive area. And we as a Lake Association of Management Districts said that's ludicrous. We can't allow that. And there was a lot of energy and effort put into coming up with a solution that still gave the homeowner access to the lake, but protected the sensitive area. So what I'm here today doing is the same thing. I want to protect that sensitive area where there is a proposed boat marina to be put. There is no way that a sensitive area and a marina can work hand in hand and not have detrimental effects to the environment and to the intent of that being designated as a C4. Last year, I started getting phone calls because people were hearing that there was a rezoning of that area, and I knew nothing about it. So I called the DNR and I had a conversation with them, and they told me that there was no application to do such a thing, and that there never in the history of the DNR has there been a reversal of taking something out of a sensitive area and converting it into a different use. So to me, this would be also very detrimental to setting precedents for other people to follow suit and say, well, they did it on Lake Beulah. I want to change the zoning to be able to put a marina in on my lake. So I think we need to be very sensitive and careful to that and take that into consideration as well. And I think, and as it relates to the boats that are currently there, it was my understanding that John's business was all being run from the creek side. that he was only allowed to have a personal boat on the lakeside, and I don't know the reasons, the whereabouts of why that all has happened. But again, it's a situation that has morphed over the years. That's what I was told when I first came on as the president of the lake. Now there's 5 or 6 boats that sit on the lakeside, and they're rented on a regular basis. Now, I commend John for his business, and I think it's a great asset to the lake, and I love the fact that he's giving access to community at large to be able to use and access the lake. The concern is related to the regulations that are in place and are they being adhered to. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Finally.
Good evening. I'm Pat Bergen. I am the new chair of the Lake Beulah Management District. So I don't know about all the history that John spoke of. So this is my first appearance before y'all. I have a couple of exhibits. I don't really want to go into these too much, simply because I think we've already covered them. But Lake Beulah Management District is a statutory lake district. We've really got one purpose, and that is to protect and improve Lake Beulah. So I'm here because I think a marina is a bad idea for the lake. I think it's going to be damaging to the lake. First thing I'd like to mention, though, is that there were a number of documents that Mr. Stoss talked about that were not included in the packet that I haven't seen. So I'm a little bit concerned about being able to address all of those. But summary, we got 3 issues: rezone to C2, approval of a commercial marina as a conditional use, and just some problems with the application. So the first thing, we've talked about this. I'm not going to cover it again, but I do have an exhibit if anybody wants to see it. All this first exhibit shows is that this is on the sewer pack plan is an primary environmental corridor. There should be 8 copies there if I counted properly. The second exhibit, again, just to back up, is the DNR's designation of a primary sensitive area. I just wanted to at least get those in circulation. It's easy to see why, we've talked about this sort of ad nauseum, but I just did want to talk about the purpose of C4 zoning. We touched on it a little bit. The primary purpose of C4 zoning is to preserve, protect, and enhance the lakes, streams, and wetlands of Walworth County. This is such a critical area. A good chunk of the water is flowing past the property, and it is an important filtration area. The applicant did talk, and there seemed to be some confusion about the consistency of the area zoning. So I did grab, and my next exhibit is a zoning map that I printed out. I do have 8 copies of these. You can see that the upland area of the district that is next to it is C2, but the wetland area is C4, and that's pretty clearly denoted on that.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope there's 8 copies, sorry. So, and the applicant is pretty well aware of C4 zoning. The zoning that is zoning of the property that is on the same side of Stringer's Bridge Road, so not the Fred Stapp property, and that's ET 1800019C. That property is also zoned C4. The property that we were talking about before that I think one of the commissioners brought up, and if I'm misspeaking, I apologize, that's the PBLW 0005. Some of that's C2, but the wetland shoreland area is all C4. So
I might just clarify, he's not asking us to change the current, well, I guess it's all currently C4, but per the wetland delineation along the shore, just like by the C2 neighboring property, would stay C4.
Okay.
Just for clarification.
So, and let's look at the standard for changing that. It shall not be rezoned. It sounds like we're not going to rezone that property. We've talked about this being an important fish spawning, breeding, nursery, feeding grounds, and wildlife habitat. And that property shall not be rezoned according to 74-260 of the zoning code if the proposed rezoning may result in a significant adverse impact on any of those issues. A marina with 10 slips is going to do it. It's going to need more boats in this sensitive area. The other area that we talked about in the last meeting is specifically, boats do pass through the channel, okay? And that was sort of analogized to me. This is just another couple of boats in the area. The boats don't go directly into this sensitive, shallow area that we're talking about. They pass through the channel that's right next to it. So we're talking about a new invasion into a very sensitive area. Thing that has been touched on a little bit is that the water's not deep enough for these boats. The front of the pontoons, and pontoons I think we all know are very, very shallow draft boats. They're sitting up on the shore. Putting these boats on the bottom is going to block sunlight, getting to these weedy areas that are used to filter out the sort of the contaminants and to keep Lake Beulah the quality lake that it is. So the second thing is applicant's not just seeking a rezone, he's seeking a rezone to a commercial marina. That's not permitted under C2 zoning. The primary purpose of C2 zoning is to preserve, protect, enhance, and restore all significant woodlands, related scenic areas, and submarginal farmlands. And I can continue to read it, but I think we're all pretty bored with that. So the bottom line is this sort of C2 property, but it isn't significant woodland. It's not a related scenic area to that woodland, and it's not submarginal farmland. Even if it was, the purpose of C2 zoning is preserving, protecting, and enhancing, or restoring the natural beauty of the property. He's talking about creating a commercial parking lot on this property for his commercial marina for his own personal financial gain. In short, he's got to come forward under C2 zoning and show that he seeks to assure the preservation and protection of areas of significant topography. This is right in the zoning code. Natural watersheds, ground and surface water, potential recreation sites, wildlife habitat, and other natural resource characteristics that contribute to the environmental quality of the county. To summarize, his proposed use isn't in keeping at all with what the intent of C2 zoning is. Even if it was, even if we do, it's not an acceptable conditional use. Under C2 zoning, acceptable conditional uses are sort of divided into a bunch of different categories, but more broadly, there's commercial categories and there's non-commercial categories. There's 3 commercial categories that are identified. Commercial stables, this is not a stable. Commercial arboretums, only if they're outside primary environmental corridors. Commercial greenhouses, again, only if they're outside primary environmental corridors. So he's relying on this yachting clubs and marinas language, but it doesn't indicate, it's not a commercial yachting club or a commercial marina. So the statute is really specific. If he wants this use, the statute, the conditional use, the acceptable conditional use needs to be commercial yacht clubs or commercial marinas. So this is not an acceptable conditional use under any circumstance, even if it's rezoned to C2, because it's not in keeping with the conservation nature and intent of the zoning ordinance. There's some problems with the application. I think most of them jump off the page. The first one is it's not consistent with the surrounding zoning, or his property is consistent with the surrounding zoning. The other thing is he says in his application that there's no change in the impervious area, except that he wants 8 parking spots. And in the map that he submitted in his newest packet, there's actually 11 parking spots. There's a total of 8 in one area and 3 others. The application says no structures, but his email says, oh, there might be use of a building structure or place for rental of watercraft. So is he asking for a structure now? Is that going to be a later request? It just seems like this application is extremely incomplete and not put together. Maybe the biggest thing that somebody already touched on this, it might have been Commissioner Dynick, but he's claiming 249 feet of frontage. And I do have one other exhibit, and this is just a survey of the property that was in the property tax records file, the GIS file. Y'all are gonna know better than I'm sorry. And you can see from that survey that I'm sure that this is not perfectly across the ordinary high water mark, but shoreline frontage isn't measured, as you walk along. You don't take a wheel and run along your shoreline. Shoreline frontage for the East Troy ordinance is a straight line connecting points where property lines meet the ordinary high water mark. For the survey on file, we're talking about 121 feet of frontage. There's not 250 feet of frontage. He's not entitled to 10 boats under the town's ordinance. I think Commissioner Dynick has already mentioned. So bottom line, it's a tiny parcel. At most, it's 0.42 acres. He's talking about paving most of it, putting 10 boats at the rest of it. That's not in keeping with the zoning ordinance. And to conclude, Lake Buell Management District is opposed to the rezone, opposed to conditional use. And I thank you very much for your time and attention to this.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak against the proposal? Please.
Linda Zerner, N8784 Stringers Bridge Road. I was a former guardian of Fred's Tap prior to Mr. Stas purchasing the property. I spent a lot of time in the sensitive area with my dogs. So the last meeting, June 5th, Mr. Stas stated that he was not going to do anything to disturb the shoreline. He already has. He has dug out and put a lot of rock in the water and along the shoreline.
She's gonna have her chance to speak now. Okay, you had your time.
The rock is scattered throughout the grass area to make it easier to launch boats. There were no piers there, so I don't know if there was ever any permits for piers. There's only 2 there today. But Josephine and the Myers never had piers. So my biggest concern about all of this is the crossing of the street going to the bar. I one day, luckily, was driving very slow and 2 little boys almost bolted right out into my car. They turned white as ghosts. It's like, yeah, me too. I've seen elderly people that can barely walk going across the street. It's like a big concern with people clipping down that hill. The other thing is the septic is bad. I was very much aware of that when the Myers had the property. So I gotta say that the marina that's been being run all this time, I think Mr. Stas is doing okay. Things seem somewhat legit, other than the people in the roads. But I don't think any more should be added to it. There's a lot of extra car parking at the property next to my home that Mr. Stas owns. It's off of West Bay and Stringers Bridge, and they double stack cars there. So I don't know how many more cars he needs and how many more boats he can possibly put in compared to what he's doing. He's already running a marina, so it's what it is. I don't want to be the one to kill a child or someone crossing the street, and I live right there. So that's all.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak against the proposal?
John Becker, W 1958, Pastime Lane, East Troy. The application states to request to change the property from C4 to C2, the entirety. And that I think is absurd because there's a wetland there that has to remain C4. And C4 is an ideal classification for that property. C4 also includes upland and the like and wetland. It's all combined there. Work together, and that runoff from the upland is captured by the wetland. Works out very well. I think in the last meeting, someone said, what's changed since the last 2 times John Stas has been in here for a rezone, and they had a decline. Well, there's something that has changed, and that is the recognition of the sensitivity of the lake and sensitivity of the zone where the proposed marina or whatever it would be. There've been 2 cases lately. One is the pumping of the water from Booth Lake into the stream there that comes down from Pickerel Lake. That was defeated, and I think thanks to the Protective Association for their fine work there, but it was defeated because of the conditions that it would contaminate the lake. The other one was a dredging situation over at Little Road that the management district worked with the DNR and got them to change their concept there from dredging to a single pier. I think that's a big step. And one of the reasons is that they're now the DNR and other people become more sensitive to the sensitive area. So I think that's very important. And again, what we're after here on the situation is to preserve, protect, enhance, and restore wetlands to the best of our ability. That's part of the C in conservation. That's what the conservation or C4, C2 comes from. I think the other thing about the marina in C2, if it were C2, is requires 5 acres minimum. There are some exceptions where C2 has gotten in with less than 5 acres, but those have been weird exceptions, such as a house is built on it already, and you don't want to tear the house down just for that. But otherwise, it's 5 acres. Stepping aside to look what John Stoss has done to date, I think you have to look at the total situation that John has misled the county, the town, the Protector Association, and the management district on how he's using the rental of boats. He stated that people who rent a boat on the east side there on the property, that he takes them by boat to the piers. They hop on the piers, hop on the boats, and never touch the land. And I asked the county, why are you allowing this? They said, well, that's what he's doing, so he's never touching the land, so he's not using that, which I think is ridiculous, but that's what they said. Told the same thing to the town. He's not doing that. People are walking on the property, they're walking across the road and onto the general area there, and then they get on the boats. So that's misleading. And certainly as we go on, he's renting boats from that property today. Doesn't have a marina permit for that property at all. Has no permit to do that, but he's doing it. And that's wrong. He's parking cars in the restricted area that we heard about. It's carved out there. And these cars can, I've seen as many as 6 there, but there's usually a couple that are parked there. There was a long time, there was a truck there. That's been removed now, but that was there for a long time. So I think he's violated that, and I think you heard from the chairman of the town, former chairman of the town, a violation there. So why would you want to support a guy and give him credit for something he's done like that? You wouldn't. And I think the other thing is the frontage. We've heard that a number of times. I did a lot of checking into this and discussed it with the town attorney. John gave the number of 250 feet for the frontage. The attorney took that and said, okay, and if you read the letter from the attorney, it says, based on your number of 250 feet. It's not the attorney's number. He didn't come up with that. John came up with that. If you take the chord, which is about 125 feet or 120 feet, he'd be allowed about 3 or 4, possibly, personal boats, no commercial boats. So I think you have to look at the situation just as John got up here before, didn't do it today, but other times, I think Jennifer Olson asked him name and address. He gives his address where he lives is Fred's Tap. John doesn't live at Fred's Tap. He hasn't lived there. It doesn't have facilities for living, but yet he states, I live there. Wrong. So how could you trust a person like that to be a steward of the land, steward of the future activity of that parcel, if he did have everything that he wanted? I don't think you could. Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else like to speak against the proposal?
Bernard Baum, N8634 Stringersbridge Road. I just had comment on the past presentation, and I don't know if you guys were aware, but that's what's happening. I have many pictures. I brought one in. And if anybody wants to contact some of the people that cross there, here's a list. The car's parked. Do you like it?
No, thanks. You're fine.
Okay, anybody want it?
I get it.
There's more this year. This is
Understood.
last year's. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak against the proposal? All right, at this point, I'd let Mr. Stas have a short rebuttal, but I do not want to make it personal. If you feel like you need a rebuttal, by all means. Yes, sir.
Can I step up here?
Please.
Can I ask you this? Does this have the recording on it? Does he do this at all the meetings with recording?
I don't know that that's
He would have all the
relevant
evidence
to
and all the
what.
facts, that's all.
All right.
Oh, no.
Am I allowed to rebuttal to each individual person?
No, you're gonna talk to us.
Well, I'm not gonna talk to them, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna talk to you. Yeah,
Please.
that's
I
okay.
just don't want it to
No,
get
no, no.
personal, and we're
It
not
won't be
gonna have any
personal.
arguments
I'm just
tonight.
gonna rebuttal to what I heard, and I'm gonna say it right to you.
Please do.
Okay. So, when Bob Mueller was up here making his statements, you didn't show up with the permits. You didn't show up with the restrictions. All you showed up was with your opinion. I have my documents that tell a different story. And I'd be more than happy that anyone wants to look at them. They can look at all the
Just keep going.
facsimiles. They can look at everything, the correspondence that I did with Faye Emerson at Walworth County before a pebble of sand was touched over there. And what Faye told me, she gave me permission to remove 4 truckloads out of there, which I did. And then she said there was, so she says, now I'm gonna ask you to apply for a permit. And that's exactly what I did, and it's all documented. So if you come up with your opinion, you're welcome to your opinion, but you're not welcome to your own facts. So Bob Nada, who represents or is on the paid ticket with the Lake Beulah Management District, when I was applying for my pier on the property that's south of the culvert over there, because of his inaccurate statements and emails that he sent to the DNR, it took me 3 additional years to get my permit approved from the town. So it took me 7 years to get a scrawny 28-inch wide permit approved for that property there. So what Bob Nada does is he gets paid to say whatever the person that's paying him wants him to say. I'm just gonna put that out there for that. All right, in reference to what Tom Vandenberg said from the Camp Alice Chesters, he is in sensitive area number 6. And sensitive area number 6 currently has approximately 25 boats in it, has its own boat launch, and has 2 fairly good-sized buildings within a spitting distance from the shore. So if it's okay for them to have 25 boats there, why is it not okay for me to have 10 boats down in my area in sensitive area number 7? Okay. The town's own boat launch is in sensitive area number 8. And the town generates revenue off of the boat launch every year, $50,000 to $60,000 approximately they generate from having boats pass in and out of the launch. That's sensitive area number 8 there. I don't see anybody up here going after the town for allowing those boats.
We're
to
not
come
talking about
through. I know,
sensitive
okay,
area number 8.
I just wanted to make it a point that the environmentally sensitive areas are very important to the lake, and I agree with that. But you can't have one environmental area get ran on wide open, and then have another one where you're gonna put the screws to it to the things pop. Just being fair and equitable, that's all I'm asking for. Okay, in reference to what Linda Zerner stated, she came up here with her opinion again. Please show me the pictures of what you're talking about. If you have pictures of me putting rocks in the lake, I want to see them because it's going to be news to me. So don't come up here and paint a picture unless you have documentation to back up what you said. Everything that I stated, I have pictures or documentations or letters that I can provide to the board to stipulate what I'm saying. I don't come up here with my opinion, I come up with my facts.
Okay.
All right. The majority of the people in this room don't understand that the public water trust doctrine is there to protect the public's right to these lakes. And I understand there's a lot of politics on lakes. I understand there's a lot of good old boy club mentality on lakes. You get that everywhere, not just on Beulah, you get it all over the state. But right in the state of Wisconsin's Constitution, it states that the public has a right to access these lakes. And that's a fact, that's a law. So it's important to keep that in mind when I'm providing a service to somebody that might live in Miramar or might live in McGuanago who can't afford a beautiful home on Lake Beulah. They can come out, spend a half a day on the lake, take some pictures with their kids or their grandkids, and that's something that they have for the rest of their life. They don't have the luxury of living on a lake. I wish everybody could live on a lake, but they don't have that luxury. So I provide the service, the niche service that allows them to have access to the water. You know, is that bad? Some people think it's bad. Is it good? Some people think it's good. Okay, getting back to the number of boats that are on this property. Now, if anybody read the letter from Attorney Mills, it stated right in there from Pam Shenzi, who was the water management specialist from the DNR, stated that the DNR made a ruling that if you had a boat in the water at the time of the DNR's ruling, all those boats are grandfathered. So my 10 boats are grandfathered in, and Attorney Mills illustrates that clearly.
But I thought it was based on 250.
It is, that's what Jim based it on, but also the
I'll
DNR
clarify with
stated, the DNR also stated, if you read his letter, it stated right in there that all the boats that are there are grandfathered. So that's all I got, thank you.
All right, thanks. All right, any other discussion amongst commissioners?
Yeah, so the applicant mentioned some other documents that looked like a CSM was presented with the stamp. We didn't have that. And then I believe the applicant mentioned he had updated wetland delineation, but I didn't see that either.
Okay.
We have,
I have it, so if you didn't get it, I'll make sure you get it.
It wasn't the delineation, it was the survey.
It was actually, yes, it was Ferris Hanson's survey with an updated stamp on it. So it wasn't an updated wetland delineation.
okay.
One other comment, I could be wrong on this, but John just mentioned your grandfathered on a number of boats. My recollection is your grandfathered on your pier, if you had a pier and not
Okay.
boats.
I'll get clarification from
I think it's
Attorney
piers.
Mills. All right, any other discussion? All right, we will do some homework and come back in 2 weeks on this one. Next item on the agenda. Thanks, Mike, for your patience. Is a conditional use lot line adjustment at N9022 Army Lake Road, PET 1000009.
1 week or
2.
Two. Jen?
I believe it's the
15?
Originally, this meeting was scheduled for the 3rd.
My apologies, everyone. It's 1 week from today. 1 week from today. Thank you for clarifying that. I apologize. You can feel free to fire me. 1 week is our decision-making meeting.
the 17th, July 17th.
July 17th is our decision-making meeting. Now, Mike,
Okay,
thanks.
good evening. We were before you late 2023. You guys approved the certified survey map and the rezone to B4 for business, highway business property. Then we applied to the county, and the county wanted us to go through the conditional use also, so they can look at it all in one packet. So we had the preliminary review meeting with the county for the conditional use. Went through some of the requests that they had for revisions, and then they signed off on it a couple weeks ago. So then we could get on the agenda here at the town for the conditional use. So you guys have seen this before. I know there's some new members now, so probably can refresh a little bit. But Mr. DeGrave is cutting out 5 acres, which, like I said, was approved by you guys, a certified survey map, and we rezoned it to B4, business, highway business. He wants to run a membership club for woodworking. And what basically, I'm just going to hit on some of the highlights. I think you have the letter that he wrote to you in the county, but it's basically going to be a club, membership club, so only members will be there. He'll have no employees. They'll all have fobs, and it'll be surveyed by 24-hour cameras. He's thinking about somewhere between 30 and 50 members, and probably only around 10 people there at one time. So more likely 2 to 4 people, but that's probably the max is around 10 people at one time. Would be open year round. It'll be insulated building to minimize noise and traffic on the property. He's targeting retired individuals that like a place to do their woodworking hobby, individuals wanting to create furniture, wood crafts for themselves, crafters that need tools and fillies to create the wood crafts. He might have potential classes for homeschooled kids and sort of stuff like that, or maybe Boy Scouts and that sort of thing. You can read through the list if you have that letter, which I'm sure you do. Yeah, so that's kind of what he's planning on doing. Like I said, we had the pre-application with the county. They gave their preliminary approval. If you guys approve it, we'll go back in August to their meeting where they'll do the final review and approval. And I'm sure we'll have conditions, which we already met a bunch of them. If you look at the site map, some of those conditions were the amount of parking stalls for the size of the property. We did revise it down to under an acre of disturbance, so we don't have to go through the DNR, which is going to be a big jump to get through the DNR process. It's a 4,000 square foot building, so we have 30 parking stalls per the county. The lighting on the building, any lighting on the building would be shielded from the lot lines. And then other thing they wanted was parking lot bumpers, so they know where to park on the property. So yeah, so that's kind of the gist of it.
So basically, we approved the rezone, and now they want a conditional use?
Yeah, and this is, clubs are a permitted use under B4, but they're, sorry?
Did they approve the rezone? Is it currently zoned?
They're gonna do it all in one, that's why I'm
So
here now, because they wanna do it all in one shot.
tabled that.
Yeah, we're on if you guys approve the conditional use, then they're gonna look at the rezone and the conditional use all at one time.
I thought it was a permitted use last time, honestly.
Well, that's what I'm not sure. It says that clubs are permitted under B4, but they're asking, I think for the specifics of the club, they want the conditional use. So
Okay.
they know, here's what we're gonna do as a club.
Okay.
That way you can't go and then open up something else. I think it just covers.
Strip club or
Right,
something
right.
else.
Club covers their
Sure,
butts. So
Sure, okay.
I believe that's why they do it this way.
Sure.
So.
Any other questions for the applicant? I know some of you guys obviously are new. Go ahead, Ben.
Just to reiterate, so this is a, you're not asking us for a zoning approval because that's already happened.
You've already done, yeah,
We've done
you've
it.
approved this rezone and the CSM.
Yep.
So we're just the conditional use part of it now.
And then, so this is just really in the condition, the conditional use is everything that you state. It reflects what you originally stated. It's just a rearrangement of the parking. Is that?
Really, the only thing that changed from the original was we moved the septic to the
Within
south
the-
side to get the acreage down. That's really the only thing we changed from the original when we were here for the CSM. I think we had this map when we were here for the CSM. Kind of heard the whole synopsis when we did this before,
Yeah.
but I thought we'd go through, get the rezone, get the CSM approved, and then come back and go through again for the conditional use, but the county wanted it all at once. So that's why I'm here for that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Mike, the building will have sanitation, it'll have bathrooms, that's what
Yep,
the
that's what it
septic
is.
system's for.
Correct.
And if the septic system went from here to here,
Correct.
looks like the note didn't get taken off.
That's where the current borings are. He's got the guy coming back out to do more perk tests,
I
which will be a conditional of approval from the county
Sure.
to get it re-perked.
And then is this an asphalt paved parking lot?
It's gonna be gravel with an asphalt approach, so the county was okay with that. So you'll have, I don't know, maybe 50 or so feet of asphalt coming off the contract out, yes, to avoid pulling gravel out there, so.
Yeah, I have no questions, Randy.
Anybody else? Any questions of the applicant? Okay, thanks. Again, this has been before us. This is no bait and switch. This is no pulling a fast one. It's just kind of going through the proper channels, dotting the i's and crossing the t's. So I think we could take a motion.
Motion to approve the conditional use and flat line adjustment for PET 100009 as presented.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And one abstain? No. If you could, for the record, one recusal. All right, next item on the agenda is any other business amongst commissioners? Any public comment? Then I would take a motion to adjourn.
Joe,
Oh, yes, sorry.
so just comment on this project. I'm glad you all voted for it. I am hesitating.
Oh, I didn't open it up to the audience.
I want to focus some citizens.
But my apologies,
I
Carl.
was just looking to do here, both personally and as a businessman. I think it's gonna be a good thing.
Thank you. I forgot to open it up to the audience. My apologies. Yes. Now, if there's no other public comment, I would take, oh, sorry, Carl, I would take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you. Thanks, Mike. I actually thought about trying to push you ahead of him.